All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Awesome Radio WECU 107.5 FM and 1570 on your AM dial. Okay, that's locally. All right, today's show is Let's Talk Real Life with Ms. Nada Manning. I am your co host, Vernon Garrison. Thank you for joining us. And if you're watching this series, it's a very, very powerful series here. The baseline is emotions. But I'll let our host, Ms. Nada Manning, talk more about what we're discussing during this series. Again, thank you for joining us on social media as well. Awesome Radio Facebook, Awesome Radio YouTube. We do appreciate you and hope that you enjoy the show. Send us a message. Look forward to hearing from you. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, here is Miss Nada Manning.
Hello. It's good to be with you again as we continue with our series on emotions. This is part 2 of the series. Last week we talked about a couple of 3 different things of how this manipulation can come into place if we are not careful. And I dare say there are times when we don't realize the impact that we have on the next person in some of the things that we say and do. Sometimes it's deliberate, and sometimes it's, oh, I didn't know I offended you that way. I didn't know I said this, or I didn't know. And it can be legitimate, and sometimes it's not so legitimate. But again, we're talking about the emotions. Part 2 is going to talk about weaponizing emotions, weaponizing them. Weaponizing them is like shifting the responsibility. You're shifting the responsibility of that, what you're supposed to be doing. You making the other person feel like they're supposed to be doing it, if that makes sense. Let's see, what's a good example? It could be, I don't know, doing things without being asked, for example. That was one of the things that I wrote down. Doing things without being asked. I'm trying to think of a good example. When you're in a position of shifting responsibility, you're making the other person feel like, yeah, even though you were supposed to be doing it, okay, then you're going to make them feel like they should have done it. I'm repeating myself because I'm trying to get the right point across in that shifting responsibility in a household can be manipulating in that one thought for cooking. Both people can cook, but when one come home, they expected the other one to have started the meal. If they're home first, then why can't you start the food? It's your responsibility to at least get the food started or finish the meal. So that person that is being accused of not stepping up is feeling some kind of way. Why do I have to be the one? I did it yesterday. Or it's your turn to do it. And that could be not just cooking. It could be anything. It could be our children and saying their chores. I washed the dishes yesterday. Why can't you wash them today? Shifting the responsibility on the next person. Well, it was your turn to do it. So why didn't you step up and get it done? Because I was late. I had to go do this or I had to do that, or just making excuses. Shifting the responsibility. That's just a minor form of the emotions that can take place in a person's mind of making them feeling guilty because they didn't do what they were supposed to do or what the other person thought they were supposed to do. Well, how about some clarity? Make it known, make it clear what is expected of the other person. If you do that, that will save a lot of feelings stepping in, a lot of arguments, a lot of disagreement, it will save communication is key. I've always said that throughout the shows. If you tell a person and come out and blatantly tell them, not just assume that they know what they were supposed to do. Sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we genuinely have that in our mind that I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, but it could be, well, I'm going to do this, or I'm not going to do anything. And so nothing gets done. We're talking about shifting the responsibility. It's your turn to take the trash out. Children can say this. Well, I took it out yesterday. Same thing with washing dishes. I took it out. I washed the dishes yesterday. I'm not going to wash the dishes every day. So how about resolving that by making a schedule on who's supposed to do what and when you're not able to get it done, then you communicate to the person. Hey, I know it's my turn to take the trash out on Thursday, but I have a game Thursday after school, so I can't do it. Or the husband or the wife can say, I have a meeting that's scheduled to be at 4:00 and I won't be home until about 6. Can you start dinner? You can shift the responsibility in a positive way by communicating, or you can do it in a negative way by not telling the other person that you're not going to be able to hold up your end, which creates emotions, arguments, disagreements, hostility. All of those are emotions. What do you think, Coach?
Well, I think you're talking about one of my favorite subjects in this emotional category, and it's called gaslighting. I could do a gaslighting show every week and still not understand it all myself.
Is this what I'm saying more like gaslighting, what I've said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Projecting guilt on someone else.
Okay.
Yeah, projecting guilt on somebody else, projecting blame, targeting someone else, but with a underlying reason of covering up your own inadequacies, or shifting the blame so that you can control someone.
Okay.
Well, you're not doing so well in that area. You're not cooking, you're not cleaning, you're not, when they actually could be doing an adequate amount of work. But you want them to they want to sell you the whole story so that they can relieve themselves of some responsibility, and not come right out and say, well, I'm not doing anything, or revealing the fact that they're not doing anything. Yeah. So they're shifting the blame and shifting the light and putting you in a spotlight and making it seem like it's a job that you're not doing so well at. Well, who's saying you're the only one that's supposed to be cooking?
Right. Right.
Where do we get that part confused?
Right.
But because it's they want to inundate you with a subject so that you can take full responsibility for what's not going well.
Being that you were the initiator of this emotion subject, as I mentioned on the last show, what are some of your experiences or your thoughts when you said, you know what, we need to do a show on emotions? I think that you probably didn't realize the magnitude, or maybe you did, I don't know, of how far this emotion can extend, because it's such a wide spread of issues that occur in real life of our experiences. When you were talking about emotions, does any of these topics that we talked about so far kind of tie into what you were thinking when you said, let's do a show on emotions? We got the behavior, the narcissism, the inadequacies, the shifting blame, the hurting other people. What were your thoughts when you said emotions?
Well, my primary thought was to support people who are going through emotional turmoil, going through, having an emotional challenge, trying to balance their emotions, trying to have a work-life balance, trying to manage stress, trying to make psychological adjustments. People are going through therapy. People are getting counseling. Two different things. Okay, therapeutic interventions. Trying to follow them. Trying to follow the instructions of a clinical personnel with a combination of medication slash one-on-one sessions or group sessions or some type of. So my thing is just talk about emotions, because there are a lot of people trying to get spiritual growth. People are trying to repent. People are trying to change their lives physically and get in shape and uh, exercise or fast more or detox their body from a lot of the things that those all affect our emotions, as we've been talking about. So I think the bottom line is just supporting people who are uh, curious as to their feelings and their emotions in our daily lives. It's incredible the amount of emotional conversations that you hear that seem like policy when it's political disappointment. It's incredible the emotion, the conversations you hear in public talking about relationships when it's just people are experiencing emotional failure, um, and that's breaking down relationships, traumatic experiences, the unresolved issues in our lives, are scattered all through our conversations and demands that we put on people and requests. And so people are looking at you like, are you crazy? Well, some of us, if you had a true definition of what crazy is, then yeah, some of us meet that definition. And I've gone crazy before. I went there, I got there, I got me a glass of Kool-Aid and sat down and talked to some other people that were at this crazy location. And I decided I wanted to come back. I didn't want to stay in that situation. That was hypothetical, by the way. But yeah. So that's why I felt like any show, any conversation, whether it's my opinion or it's a fact or it's your opinion, allow the audience to get in on this conversation and have a side and pick on me for what I'm saying or say we're just rambling but just to raise the consciousness and the conversation about our emotional, intellectual well-being, our internal spiritual well-being, our physiological and psychological, um, parasympathetic what is the word? Para and sympathetic emotions and how we are utilizing them to make decisions in our lives. If we feel hot, do we turn on the air conditioner? Or if we feel cold, do we turn on the heat? Well, that two things affects other people in our lives, the AC and the heat.
Oh, that's it? You finished?
Yeah, I'm done. I was about to go on a roll about that because it's too hot in here. You got hot natured people, cold natured people. That's a good example of emotions right there.
And truth be told, when you're talking about temperature, it affects one's behavior, their mind, their psychological behavior. They get cranky, they get irritable when they get too hot, and I guess they can get irritable when they get too cold too. But especially when there's heat going on, because you can't take off enough clothes to cool off when it's hot. When it's hot, it's hot. When you're cold,
Yeah.
you keep putting on some more clothes and keep putting on more clothes and more covers and all that to get warm. But it causes that behavior to shift to being cranky sometime when you're overheated. But I basically wanted to find out where your head was when you were talking about emotions. And I did have another thought, but I forgot what it was right now. But anyway, um, the trauma that can occur from one's experience can cause a tremendous amount of emotions. And if we talk about trauma now, which is a form of emotion, stuff happens. We talking real life, folks. Let's talk real life show is what we're talking about. Trauma, it seems to me, it seems to be more rapid today than ever before. Trauma has always existed, yes. But the idea of things happening so quick, the trauma just is the word of traumatize us in the sense of what in the world out. It's like what in the world is going on. Things are just spinning one thing after another, one thing after another. You know, I heard that comment a couple of days ago. Someone was talking about something, and they made a comment loudly, and I said to myself, "You said nothing but the truth. If it ain't one thing, it's another. Always something." And usually, when that statement is made, it's not something that's good. I don't know how many people would say that when it's something good going on, one good thing after another. They don't usually say if it ain't one thing, it's another. It's usually something traumatizing when that something negative. You fix this, this get broke. You fix that, something else happened. You go take care of that, next thing you know, it's one thing after another. So it's usually after a while, it depends on how strong that individual is, it can get to you. And the emotions can go one way or the other. Either it's going to help you to grow stronger to deal with those changes, or it's going to help you, like you said earlier, to go crazy. Like, you know what, I'm about sick and tired of all this going on. Every time I turn around, it's something. I'm trying to do this, you get frustrated. That's emotion. Another word that falls under this behavior we're talking about is just traumatizing, and it just gets ugly, it gets out of hand, and we kind of lose it. We lose our mind, some of us, because we can't handle it. What happens to us when that occurs and we are in a situation where we don't know which way to turn? What do we do? What does one person do versus another person? Spiritually speaking, as believers, we know what we're supposed to be doing. And sometimes we do a little bit of that and it's not enough. Because why? It don't happen. We don't see a change quick enough. I've been praying. I've been talking to the Lord. I asked the Lord to step in. And it don't seem to make a difference. So we lose our faith. Then we go somewhere else and try doing something else. All of this is behavior and our emotions setting in, causing us to go one way or the other. Where is the meeting of the mind here? Where does it start when this person is going to, something has to happen right here to bring that together. And somebody is just awfully busy over there. Amen.
All right. So, I was listening to you. I would say the thing about what you're saying right now, the most important part of this subject that you just entered in, talking about trauma, is a traumatic event that affects our lives. The most important part about that is the impressions that it makes on us psychologically. The other part is the impressions that it makes on us spiritually.
Okay.
So when you're looking at that, we do not, let's say something happens, there's a crisis. One, we don't know if it's traumatizing to a person and I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, we don't know to what level is traumatizing to a person to where that impression will be lasting. Some impressions on our lives, they say psychologically, the traumatic impressions of slavery still are imprinted in our DNA. So we making decisions based on what our ancestors and our forefathers and our mothers and grandmothers and grandfathers made, because crisis and leads to experiences that are defined by as trauma, and they will change the physiological DNA and mental impressions in our brains. Trauma does that. So I wanted to point out that part there. You say no weapons formed against us shall prosper. But if you've been traumatized by horror movies when you were young, growing up, that might be the reason you don't like horror movies. That's the reason I don't like horror movies. Took me to see The Exorcist, The Carrie, the werewolf movies, the blood and guts. That's what my family did. I think I was traumatized. I don't mess with them kind of movies. Still today. So, and people who are traumatized by certain personality types, still, when they meet that personality type that was involved in their experience, they shy away from them. So when you're talking about trauma and experiences, I just wanted to highlight that whether you forgive that person or whether your church hurt, if you will, those things, you've forgiven them and you're moving on. God had put your sin as far as from the east to the west. And so how far is that? You can keep going east and you'll never run into west. You can keep going west and you'll never run into east, if I'm saying it right. So I'd say, since you say I'm busy over here, this is what I was thinking of. When you forgive, then you have to try and live life without the consciousness of that trauma. Now, if you've made changes in your life, I heard you say before on another show that once you were young, it happened to you. Now you're grown, you pretty much know better. But that don't mean you can do better. Because if all you've been exposed to is, nothing bigger than a $50 bill, you don't know how you'll lose your mind when you get a $100 bill. I heard there were $500 bills mostly. There were $1,000 bills in the U.S. currency floating around. So, but I've never had a $1,000 bill. I've never had a $500 bill. But when we get put in different places in our life, we'll act what we call, where we're psychologically programmed. We're constructed socially. And some of us in those situations, in a new situation, you ever heard that term? You can't take the street. You can get a woman out of the street, but you can't get the street out of a woman. Well, same thing for a man. You get a man out of the street, but you can't get the street out of the man. So those are psychological impressions that make us carry ourselves in a certain way. And so am I going to blame everybody that does something wrong in the sense like they did it and they're culpable of it and they're solely responsible? No, I will say that you got to look at certain things, that rules and constructive etiquette in places and in countries. And what I might can complain over here in the United States, but I go to Russia, I ain't gonna be sitting around here talking about the president. No, that's not gonna happen. You're going straight to jail. You go to China or you go to the Middle East, you're not going to talk to a female any kind of way. You're not even going to be looking at them any kind of way. If a lot of them Arabic countries leave their females home. They don't even bring them out in the community like we do, much less dressed like we do. So it's different things that create patterns in our life. and some of them are traumatic to others, and some of them are not. How you see a crisis might not be a crisis in my life.
Okay. Speaking of experiences and exposures, what makes, I guess, how can I say this? And I guess it requires some sympathy and it requires some empathy, some type of emotion that's positive for an individual who have been exposed to negativeness most of his or her life, or have survived a traumatic event in their life. We are supposed to be encouraging to them in different ways. What causes a person to not respond to empathy or caring spirits when I would think that they can sense that there's some sincerity there. What we talking about emotions here? Okay, let me put it this way. If a person meets or knows someone, whether it's a relative or a friend or whomever, coworker or somebody, they know this person have experienced certain things, something recently or not in the past, and they want help, but they don't know how to ask for it. Again, we're going back to this, I guess, beating around the bush on this emotion topic that we talked about last week. You can see that the person need help. You can also sense that they want the help. But when they get the help, they don't know what to do with it. They don't realize that they are being helped, so they reject it by saying, I'm all right, I'm good. And they just blow it off. That's a behavior where you can see the need. They know you can see the need, but their mindset won't accept the need. What do you do in a situation where you know you can make a difference in that person's life? Do you walk away? Do you meet them at their halfway point? What do? Your mind and your spirit is saying, I know I can help this person. I know I can do something to help them to get through this, but they don't seem to accept what I'm trying to offer. Is it because they're embarrassed? Yeah, it could be. Or because they feel like they can handle it. They're strong enough, but they're not really handling it. You run into people like that. What do you call that kind of behavior on his part, his or her part, and the one who's trying to help the other one? What do you call that?
Well,
and what do you do about
it? If I'm hearing you correctly, you're talking about a person's character and things that they have contributed to their behavior and how they carry themselves in society or in a group or in a club, and you're sort of socially obligated they're in your family or they're in your neighborhood, and you're sort of socially obligated to help that person. You're a police officer, you're a caretaker, and so you're saying from that position, you some type of obligation to really say, how can I help this person? And are they responsible for their behavior? And if they are, why are they not showing empathy? Do they know what empathy is? Do they know what sympathy is? Or why are they acting like they don't care or insensitive? Or why, if somebody is hurt, they're standing there laughing? That leads me to say one thing. In a lot of the crises I've been in working with people, and I've been into some serious ones.
Mm-hmm.
we take it humorous when we watch social media and they're playing pranks on people because we look at the reaction when somebody jumps out of the bushes and scares somebody. Some people will laugh. Some people throw hands. Some people scream. That's the same way it is with somebody that's looking at somebody else go through trauma. You don't know how they're going to act because how they're acting may be based on them not understanding how to get a good social method to express themselves. Then you might tell somebody passed away in your family. Some people say, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." Some people will say nothing. Some people will say, "What are you sorry for?" So you don't know, and it's not guaranteed that under duress, under stress, under excitement, somebody just shots popping off, pow, 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 pow. We do not, it's not guaranteed how we're going to act or how we're going to respond. Now, some people are conditioned to act a certain way based on their parents and the way they were raised in the neighborhood that they were raised. They might have grew up hearing gunshots every night outside, so it doesn't bother them. It might us though. We're not necessarily used to that unless it's hunting season, and then it don't bother us. So the thing is, our environment that we were raised in makes us empathetic or pathetic. You can, oh, that person's full, they understand what you're going through. Or somebody looking at you cold turkey like, okay, you finished? Because I've had worse than that happen in my life. Okay, what else? And you're just crying your heart out. You just feel so bad that you couldn't make one car payment when other people have lost their cars 10 times over and had financial crisis like you wouldn't believe. But we're all upset because we're behind one payment. So it's relevant to our life and growing up, how we respond to other people. And I can go ahead and say this. Some people don't like the way I respond. How I respond is I'm quiet. I'm in a storm. I'll use my command presence. I'll say, okay, you go over there and you go over there. At some point, you got to stop the interaction between the two people that's having a quarrel. But at that point, I'm quiet. I'm watching. I'm doing an assessment. At some point, if I'm having a disagreement with somebody, then I'm going to get quiet, because if it didn't work the first 2 times going around, and I thought you heard me the second time, then I got to regroup. And that's where I get in trouble, because somebody be like, you talk so much, now you ain't saying nothing. Because I ain't trying to go to jail behind you. I ain't trying to push you for you to call me out of my name, for me to call you out yours. So now here's my suggestion. Some people don't know how their spouse is going to act when they come home and they give them the bad news or the good news. If it's bad news, they might start throwing stuff all around the house. If it's good news, they got a whole bunch of money. That one person that came home and ready to go shopping right away. We got an extra $5,000 coming in a month, honey. Okay, can we go buy this? I finally want that refrigerator. I finally want that new car. You got people, that respond all over the spectrum of responses. You get mad at them. You can better off wait until later on, until they come off. If they're in public places and the people who respond awkwardly, you don't have to reprove them right then. You can talk to them later on and say, when we were at my parents' house, you said they got a lot of stuff in here that looked like junk. And I don't see why they don't throw some of this stuff away. But they have no understanding that baby boomers always has symbols and trinkets and little statues and things, symbols of happiness, and plastic fruit bowls or bowls with plastic fruit, pictures on the wall. They ain't have internet, instant phone. So for a person to go to an older person's house and say, "Well, you got all these pictures in here. Where you got all this? Where you got these rabbits, these Christmas ornaments? Where you got these flowers?" So that could be a cultural insensitive remark made by somebody that don't know the culture or don't know the generations. So you can correct them right then. You can be forever mad at them for violating the etiquette, sitting down with some foreigners, eating with their fork when they should be eating with their hand. It's just we have to be a whole person, and we have to try to see people from where they're at and manage our many crises with each other. So that's like kumbaya, everybody. I'm gonna make you mad at some point this month.
Okay. I wanted to comment on a couple of things that you said. Awkward responses, forever non-responsive. I want to put those two together and call them mixed signals. Mixed signals. Mixed signals is the type of response or no response at all. Sometimes the response can be mixed in that 1 minute you are this way and you came across being very caring and understanding, and then the next minute you now I don't mean you personally, but a person can give you a whole different thought. I mean, the mixed signal is it this way or is it that way? Why does it have to be in the middle? Why can't you make your point and stick with the point? Either you care or you don't. Emotions can come into play because that person that's listening don't know what to think. It's almost like, well, does he love me or doesn't he love me? Does he care or don't he care? Is he going to help me or is he not going to help me? Is he coming or is he not coming? Is he going to call or is he not going to call? I mean, those mixed signals like that can take a person into a world spin because they don't know what to think. They don't know when to think it. They don't know what to call it. So there are mixed signals that's out there. 1 minute, the idea comes up where I'm going to help you the best way I can. Okay, that's good. The next minute, there's mixed signals in, I thought you was going to help out. Nothing is said or nothing is done. So where is the care there? I mean, it's like, why would a person want to? I'm thinking they're doing it like that because they don't know what they want to do anyway. That's what I think. But I could be wrong. Why would you want to carry a person through that and give them the impression that is positive, is going good, is all this, but yet on the other hand, it's not like that at all. What's the point in going through all of that? Why don't you just step away, leave it alone, and just don't bother at all, rather than to give all of these mixed signals to a person and their emotions are just going crazy. They just, what? You follow what I'm saying? People do that sometimes. And it causes a whole lot of feelings that's unnecessary. And it hurts when you're depending on a person to do certain things and then they don't come through. Because they've given you the impression that they're going to do this and that and the other. And it could happen in any type of relationship. Like I said, boyfriend, girlfriend, student, teacher, parents with the kids, husband, wife, significant other, whomever, mixed feelings. So when you said awkward responses and forever no responses, that's what came to my mind about those mixed feelings. Why go through all of that? Why would a person want to put someone else in that predicament? There's too many other people out here to deal with than to have all of that going on with one individual. What's the point? Either you're there or you're not. Why waste the time of being caring and loving one minute and showing it all, and then the next minute you're doing just the opposite, don't show up at all, or being lackadated about it? It's causing too many mixed emotions there. Is what I'm saying making any sense?
Yeah, yeah. I think what you're saying is very, very credible, and I think that we have to have what we call a buffer zone. A buffer zone is a neutral space around a certain defined area with purpose, and a buffer zone might be 10 feet. It might be from the road to the ditch in front of your house, or it's a zone there.
Why? Why would a zone
because people might feel one way this moment, but then they may feel another way in the next hour. So you're gonna get a statement from me in this hour, but then once I go talk to, I'm gonna be simple with it. I'm gonna start something. Once I go talk to my mama, or once I go talk to Billy Joe, or once I go talk to the pastor, my feelings might change. My thoughts might change when I get home to my family of whether I'm going to invite another man in my house around my children. So how do you communicate to this guy that you've been being nice with, and he's been the flamboyant, excellent guy with the everything you've been thinking of in a man, but you got children at home, and now you've been meeting this person, and he wants to go a little further with the relationship, and you don't want to come out and tell him, I'm not ready for you to be involved in my children's life yet. You don't know how to do it. And so the signals that you're going to give off are going to be somewhat mixed because you don't want to be rude. And they may come out of fear and insecurity. When insecurity speaks through your life and comes out between your lips, it can come out like a red flag and somebody can see it, or it could come out as being confusing because the insecurity is just that. It's not anything definite that has happened a lot of times. Might have happened in another life or happened in some other family, but it hasn't happened to you, but you think it could happen to you. So you're going to speak from your insecurities, and that's going to be a foreign language to somebody like me. Well, wait a minute now. What? You said what might happen? Oh, wow. Okay. All right. You sure you run a risk of that happening? Because, yeah, the sky could fall right now, too. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The sun lights, the batteries can go dead in the sun. And the earth going to freeze. Yeah, sure, it can happen. So when people speak from their insecurities, I think that's where you get, and not forthcoming with them. If you're talking relationship stuff, they may really be interested in you and like you, but they don't know how to say, I don't want to be that close to you. And you might feel like they're playing games with you because every time you invite them to go to dinner or lunch, they start coming up with excuses. But they still like you and you guys get along. But you don't, and then they may have somebody else, or then they may not want to get caught up themselves in another relationship because of their inadequacies. So I'm saying if somebody's uncertain and not confident in a certain area, they're just going to try to speak on it, and you're just going to see some foreign language. And you're going to be like, well, if you ain't got it together, why are we even talking about this? If you're not going to perform it, you're not going to do it. Why don't you just back up and tell me you don't have experience in cutting these trees down in my yard, or painting my life perfect. And they're just speaking from failures and speaking from a position of, oh, I don't know if I could take care of that woman. I don't know if I make enough money. My car might not be good enough. My truck, I don't have a big 4-bedroom house for her and her kids. So I think those are little things that people have in them that they're not telling other people. And it creates drama. Yeah, it creates drama. In older relationships, people have trauma and stress in their lives. And it's a lot of sexual pressure going on out here. And a man or a woman may not feel like they're getting closer to you because they don't feel like they're going to be able to take care of you, satisfy you, the way that they look, the way that they feel, the medical conditions that they're in, the weight they're carrying around on their bodies. They don't want to show you all of that. So I think people are going to mislead other people because of private matters that they have going on in their lives. And they might be on a recovering addict and they don't want to get triggered around you. I just think that we it's puzzling why we do the things we do. But here, I'm going to flip the subject a little bit, and then I'm going to hush so we can get ready to close the show. When people do try to decorate and give you a message, and they try to shape it to protect themselves and not reveal the whole story, if you listen to them long enough, you will get the story. Thus, the saying is, when somebody shows you themselves, believe them. If I'm late 9 times out of 10, then I'm irresponsible. That's it. That I just showed you myself. Believe that I'm not going to be on time because of some other things that I've arranged in my life. So if everything I say to you 2 out of 3 times is over ambitious, it's never comes true, unless it's motivation, which is just a feeling that goes away from time to time. Encouragement. It's going to be all right. I wish you the best. Just keep working on it. It's going to work fine. That's motivation. Not guaranteed results. But if I'm telling you I'm going to bring you a pencil tomorrow 3 times in a row, 3 weeks in a row, then I just showed you that I don't have, I got the pencils, but I'm not ready to share. Or I don't know where the pencils are, or I'm just lying to you. Either way, you got a strong message. And I don't get too bothered. Last thing I'll say, I don't get too bothered when people show me themselves, because I try to set healthy boundaries so you can show me yourself. Because I know you ain't Superwoman, and I know I ain't Superman, and you can't do everything. But I know you want to try to make me happy in this contract that I'm trying to make you happy in this contract, whether I'm cutting grass, whether I'm running a business, whether you work for me or I work for you. We got a contract. And I try to give people space to fail, because that's what I need. And but fail where it doesn't cost as much. Fail with the least amount of damage, so that we can, move on, and I can put you at a safe distance in my life, and you can put me at a safe distance in your life, to where we don't cost each other much emotional distress and more happiness than despair. I rest my case, Your Honor. And we're like approaching the end of the show anyway.
Thank you. That I'm hoping that people who have been listening to us on this second segment of emotions have been able to pick up on some things that they can use in their own lives as they live from day to day with their emotions. Because truth be told, as long as we are on this earth above ground, we're going to have some interaction with people one way or another. That's the way it was designed. There's nothing we can do about it. We are not hermits, but it is expected of us to treat each other with love and concern and genuineness, not to continue to, or even start if possible. Don't even start it if there's any way you can. Not even start manipulating a person, because we don't like to be manipulated. Not lead a person on unnecessarily. Don't lead them on. If you don't have any good intentions, then just go on about your business and leave them alone, and don't start nothing if you don't intend to carry through with it. Now, having said that, as humans, we have to be very, very careful. We should be very, very prayerful about various situations, relationships of any kind, whether it be with another adult or whether it be within the family or in the school system or in the community. We should be very, very careful and walk on thin ice, if you will, on how we treat those people. So having said that, we are going to end the show this time in part 2. And next week, we'll start with part 3 on some more emotional issues as we carry through with this segment on emotions. I feel like we touched on a lot of areas tonight, and we can all relate to various things. So it is in my prayer that we will see you next time. And we're going to end this segment with a prayer. Father God, thank you for this time. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you, Lord, for putting it in our hearts and our spirits to talk on this show so that the world can hear us as we walk through this thing called emotions. And we all have them. Help us, Lord, to continue to strive to look towards you to help us through. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of Let's Talk Real Life with Miss Nada Manning. This is a broadcast by Awesome Radio WECU 107.5 FM 1570 on your AM dial. All right, in my radio voice, which nobody uses anymore. See you guys next time. We love you, and send us a message if you will. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
All right.